Hi, everybody. We're just going to give people about another minute to come in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Great. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I think we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome to this session on building your CS programs with support from your admins, counselors, and other teachers. My name is Evelyn, and I'm the Director of Curriculum at CodeHS. And on support with me today, I have Haley, one of our account executives. We have a few quick housekeeping items before we get started. So the first is Haley is going to put an attendance link in for the session into the chat. So please just take a moment to click through this, and that will make sure that you're entered into the end of conference raffles. We're also going to put a link for the parking lot doc into the chat. So please use this doc for questions throughout the session. We'll be answering questions directly on the doc so they don't get lost in the chat. And we'll also share questions relevant to the session with our presenters. Please stay muted unless the presenter needs you to unmute. So actually everybody should be muted right now. And if you do have a question and need to, unmute, you can ask us or raise your hand. Virtually. Let's see. Just a note, this session is being recorded and we will be sharing it publicly along with the slides afterwards. So now I am going to turn it over to Tom and Ruth Kyle. Tom is a computer science teacher and Ruth is a CTE counselor at Melissa High School in Texas. So I am going to turn it over. Let's welcome Tom and Ruth.
Yeah, only use the audio on mine when we switch. All right, hello. I'm Tom Karel. This is my wife, Ruth. This is actually most of her deal, and I've kind of come and tagged along. This is from Counselors for Computing. So I'm gonna let her take it from here. And I'm a computer science teacher, and we'll let her do the bulk of this.
All right, good morning. We're having a little bit of trouble with not having coffee fully. So my name is Ruth Kyle. I've been a counselor for a long time, and I just recently got into making sure that kids were getting into CTE. And then I had the opportunity to attend a Counselors for Computing conference. And that really kind of sparked my interest in getting students involved in computing and making sure that we had women especially engaged in the pathway, and then helping students to see that it is possible for anyone to be involved with computer science. My husband is adjusting the lighting. We haven't had to do one at home in a while, so he's back there adjusting the lighting. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So a little bit about NC-WIT, a nonprofit community supported by the National Science Foundation. The main thing is convening, equipping, uniting, and creating leader organizations. The main focus of NC-WIT is to increase the participation of all women, and it doesn't matter the race, the ethnicity, the class, the age, the sexual orientation, the disability status, just getting everyone involved possible in the world of computing. Okay, here's a little bit of Jamie Casap. Jamie's statement was, rather than asking students what it is they want to do when they grow up, you ask them what problems they want to solve. And this is Jamie.
Now it looks like the audio isn't being shared.
Okay, sorry about the audio not coming up. Sometimes even technology is an interesting thing. So the main thing that Jamie had to say was, when we're looking at problem solving, don't ask kids what they want to be, ask them what problems they want to solve. So what problems do you want to solve, and how can technology help? I like to give the example of when my son got married a couple of years ago. I hate shopping. I am not one of those women that likes to run out and go shopping and buy stuff for the sake of buying stuff. That's just not me. But I discovered that Macy's has an app, and you have someone measure you and you put in what you like and what you don't like. And as you search for dresses or items that you'd like to wear, then the app will tell you what works. So I would look at a dress, and the Macy's app would come up and say, based on what you say you like, this would not be a good look for you. Or it would come up and say, this would work for you, and if so, you need a size whatever. Now, all of us have had the experience of we order something through the mail, we get it, we try it on, it doesn't fit, we have to take it back, we have to mail it back. The Macy's shut down all of that, and that was so cool as far as I was concerned, because it gave me the exact size which fit perfectly, and it was a style that I liked, and I never had to set foot in a store. So that was a problem that someone else saw that they wanted to solve. So the Counselors for Computing program provides informative resources that help counselors join the front line of the computing conversation. Whenever possible, if you ask NC WIT to provide you with, especially the Counselors for Computing, they will provide you with resources that you need in order to fulfill what it is you want to do in your school. And so you'll notice that it says people and programs, which means they will help you find someone near you that's doing something that you want, together with professional development, knowledge, and resources to give all students access to transformative computing careers. Now, here's why school counselors are so important. If you'll notice, they work with many different stakeholders, and they are uniquely positioned to work individually as well as work systematically to remove barriers from students, and work individually with them. And at the same time, we have all of those different areas where we can impact what happens with our students.
All right, so let's talk about some of these barriers to entry. I can't see myself. I don't know if I'm framed in the screen okay, but so these are all things that can interfere with getting people to join your program. Okay, first of all, just the preconceived beliefs, the preconceived notions that we have about who should and shouldn't take computer science classes. The perception that computer science is geeky, it's only for the smart kids, and it's hard. And we've got to get there are even computer science people that believe that, sometimes in an arrogant way. And we've got to get people to understand that everyone can benefit from computer science and everyone can do computer science. There's a lack of awareness out there of what it's all about. It's not just coding, it's learning to problem solve. So we've got to overcome those beliefs that people already have, and that lack of awareness. The next thing is peer influence. Many kids, and I'm sure Ruth can speak to this, they take the classes their friends are taking. They're not leaders, they are followers, and they would think about taking a class like this, but nobody in their group is taking it, so they don't want to. Another thing is your curriculum is sometimes disconnected from what the students are interested in. As a computer science teacher, it behooves you to throw in activities as you're able to that match the things that the kids are interested in today, and that means updating your course every year. Not every single lesson, but throw some things in that'll reach the kids where they're at. Pick a project that you find, and you don't have to invent all this. Facebook groups and other places online will, you can keep looking for projects other people have done. And when something comes to your mind, then you can share that with others. The next thing is availability of courses. If you're starting a program, you're only getting to teach one computer science course or two, and electives just kind of get thrown wherever it fits in the schedule. Well, if your elective is up against athletics or a band or something that a lot of kids take, and that's the only time it's offered, then none of those kids have the opportunity to take your course. So, asking the counselor, can we please put my course somewhere other than against, that beginning or end of the day where you're competing against some of those big programs. At least one section of your course. And then sometimes the teacher's classroom doesn't look inviting for everyone. Something I've started doing since I'm trying to recruit girls and underrepresented minorities is I use some of the literature, NCWIT and Counselors for Computing have all kinds of posters they will send you for free that you can put up around your room that shows various famous people and various people that don't look like a typical computer science person talking about computer science and advocating for it. So use those resources. Okay, there can be barriers in the school site. We talked about the number of sections, schedule conflicts, but they may be limited to a particular pathway or track. CTE in Texas has these designated pathways, and your course will align with the pathway that you're in. But if you want to have other students not in that pathway, you have to tell the counselor, hey, my course is open to anyone. They don't have to be on that pathway. If they're on a STEM pathway or a science or math pathway or even a humanities pathway, if they've got an open elective, computer science is still a good choice. Teachers that may be teaching the CS courses we've already talked about. Wait, I think there's some overlap from the last slide, and I apologize for that. Sometimes the teachers appear to be that techie or nerdy teacher, especially if you hire people like me who were previously in the technology world. They may look like a technologist, they may be male and white, and otherwise not present well as far as trying to attract the diversity of students that you want. So you need to make sure that you do things, participate in other group activities within the school, help host the prom or whatever, be visible doing other things besides just what you teach. And then the classroom, we talked a little bit about it, but make sure that the way you decorate your room doesn't scream, I'm a nerd, I'm a geek, and that's the kind of people I'm trying to attract here. Decorate your classroom, with a lot of different kinds of things. So what do teachers want? We kind of alluded to this. You want more students in your program, you want a diverse group of students, and you want students that are eager to be there. And this can be kind of contradictory in a way because you want to take everybody, but then at the same time, you want students that are excited to be there, not students that are just kind of forced to be there. This is where your school counselors come in. School counselors tend to know the students before you do. They're the unintentional gatekeepers, and they have tremendous influence on where kids go and what they decide to take. And so that's where you want, as a CS teacher, to build a relationship with your school's counselors. That was easy here with my wife, but before she joined the same high school that I work at, there were other counselors before her and in the other school where I taught. And I went to those counselors and I said, hey, do you know this about my program? And do you know that? And I made sure they understood prerequisites, or at least things that would help. And make sure they understood that I would take anyone they wanted to present to me, that everybody could benefit from that. And I started getting a lot more students. And not all of them were a good fit, but a lot of them were. And that's how you grow the program. You talk to the counselors and educate them. So how do you do that? Remind them you're there. I mean, that can be as big as anything. In some of these bigger schools, if you're not constantly putting yourself on other people's radar, you can get forgotten. Administrators walk the building periodically, but where does their focus tend to be? The core subjects, STAR tests, particularly a school that's IR, you've got to do something to make sure they know that you're there too. And a lot of teachers are comfortable being left alone. I get that. But you want to be known if you want your program to grow. You also could start some after-school clubs, girls that code, things like that. Even a chess club, or just something to get students to be in your room and invite your friends to your room. And then you've got to be willing to take everybody. I've had a real good resource with the SPED department. SPED students are often not allowed in a lot of the electives because it, for whatever reason, legitimate or not. If you tell the SPED department that you'll take their students, you'll get more students because they are looking for places to put them. And so many of those students that may not be able to communicate well with their peers communicate very well with a computer.
I'm going to interject here for just a quick moment as far as SPED students and computing. So in the state of Texas, we have allowed 2 credits of computer science to substitute for the 2 credits that students are required to take for languages other than English. I have a young man that is in our SPED program that was right up his alley. So he's actually going to be one of our first graduates that has taken advantage of that because he loves computer science. It's a way for him to fulfill a credit. And so he's actually going to be able to use that computer science as his language other than English. And then he also will have it on his transcript to show the variety of classes that he has taken that all involve computer science. So I'm just going to go on. You get to look at me talk without benefit of slides. And so what I'm going to tell you a little bit about is, as counselors, some of the things that you can do. So I'm going to share with you about a recent incident that happened in my building. I'm always talking with girls, especially minority girls, about the areas that they can get involved with computing, computer science, and especially in the world of cybersecurity. So one of the things as we talked that particular day was I told them to think about the friend that if they said, oh, we're going to tell you this, but you can't tell anybody, and that friend would have it all over the school before the end of the school day, that's your cyber leak. And so how do you, as a friend needing to hold information, how do you get a friend to hold the information for you? And yet at the same time, if you need to share something with someone else. So I could see the wheels turning about how cybersecurity works. I also know that depending on who you talk to and the ideas that you can share, so even a student that may think, well, I'm not really tech savvy, you will find out that that's the student that they may not be quote unquote tech savvy, but you will find out that they think about things a little differently. I listened to one student one day describe it to another student as, let's say you have a program that your employer says, don't use this program, use this one. Well, it could be that someone has discovered that when you link into that program, it then allows you a portal or a way to access other areas. And so just understanding the language of what it is that you need.
The next thing you can do is push your entry-level survey courses, the pre-computer science, your computer science principles or foundations of computer science or principles of technology, all those general courses that can give students an exposure to computer science without actually taking a programming class. So all those things at the middle school level help you get students through your program before they ever hit high school. COVID offers opportunities, not just challenges. We're coming out of COVID, but there are still going to be schools that are virtual only next year, or at least offer that as an option. Computer science is an elective that can be offered to online learners. Okay, it is more challenging to engage, and it will offer more support. But many curriculums for computer science are already available online. And not all electives are offered online, so that makes you stand out. If you can get your program online, if you can choose a classroom curriculum that's that's already online, that makes it really easy to pivot to a virtual student.
And then we looked at the Girls Who Code. Now remember, anytime you see those top whatever, that is information that you can get from NCWIT or C4C, so that you have it to use. And I just keep a stack of them out on my countertop in my office. So making sure that you provide information to school counselors. Remember that business information management is not computer science. It is a really good course, but BIM is not a computer science course. So right now, cybersecurity is an area where students, there are more positions for it than there are graduates available to fulfill those. And Tom talked a little bit about this, about remind teachers and counselors that you will take special ed students, and that can be anywhere on the spectrum. I believe that Tom actually had a class where the entire class was made up with students that were on the spectrum and a few other students that were spectrum friendly, I guess you could say. And so they all kind of worked together, and it was one of their favorite classes. And teachers are really grateful because it's not that some teachers won't, quote unquote, take a student, it's that they might not know how their program will work for that particular student. Okay, everyone is welcome. Everyone is able. Encourage students to try explore new things. Make sure you have the right students in the class. And by the way you can tell the right students that are in the class is when you put them in there. So just want you to know. Remember, not just the CTE counselors, but make sure all the counselors. We talked a little bit about making sure you cover 7th and 8th graders. Middle school is a good opportunity. I have a young lady coming into the high school that is extremely interested in going into cybersecurity. And the way she got involved with that was by taking a class in middle school. So online learning has been both a challenge and an opportunity. A lot of Kim is already online. There are some resources there affiliated with NCWIT, C4C. I believe I said something in the chat earlier to someone about if you will ask NCWIT or go to C4C, if they have it, they will send it to you. They will send you posters. They will send you handouts for your students to keep in the office like we've seen. They have magazines that you can leave hanging around in your office. And so they just have those resources so that when they enter your office, they see that you are, I guess, for lack of a better word, computer science friendly, but it's also a way for you to normalize things. You know as well as I do that when you leave stuff in your room and kids get used to things that are in your room as a resource, it kind of normalizes that for them. And eventually you're going to get kids that want to know what some of it is. And the best way to get a kid in a class, as you know, is to invite them to bring a friend. So there is a monthly webinar series, Advising for Future Ready Careers. And so if you're a little bit hesitant or you're not quite sure what to do, join one of those monthly webinar series. And that will give you some additional information on, oh, here's something I can try, or here's a resource that I didn't know was in my area. And so it just gives you that additional information. We actually need to all help share our information with one another. If you would please fill out this post-event survey. And at this time, I'm going to ask Haley if she would give us any questions that may have come up and let us have an opportunity to answer them. We do have a little bit of time here at the end.
Great, yeah, and I'm gonna go ahead, you can click into the parking lot as well, but we can go from our first one. So do you have any experience running a gaming club or esports team, and how would you get support from admin on that?
Right, we haven't done either of those specific things, but administration typically will let you run pretty well whatever club that you want to, it's reasonable. And the biggest thing is, if these things are student-led, find a student that wants to do it and just basically support the student. If the student is interested in a gaming club, have them form a gaming club and tell them you'll sponsor it and they can meet in your room, or esports or whatever. And then once you've got a framework and you've got a couple of students interested, then they'll recruit each other to join the club, and then you've got something you can build on. Okay.
One of the challenges we have faced at our school is we used to have what they call mega lunch, and it's where everybody went to lunch at the same time. And so one of the things COVID did is we had to kind of break that down. Well, this next year we're bringing back mega lunch. Mega lunch will be a way for students to have a club, or they'll be able for them to find a sponsor that will sit with them while they form their own club. And so you just have to kind of find little places where you can insert opportunities for students.
And then we also had a question on the site for the free classroom posters. Could you guys share that again?
Yes, it's at NCWIT, or you can go to C4C. And if you just Google that, and it's also in the slideshow.
I think
Yes, there you go. So if you'll go there, they will give you as many resources as they have. I actually have a box, if you'll hold on.
And then we did have a question from Terry on CTE certifications. We did have a question about CTE certifications. Terry, if you wanted to add any more detail to that, I can give them more of an idea. But if you guys had any comments on certifications.
I know that here in Texas, that's kind of it's not really a moving target, it's an evolving target, because they have been building computer science curriculum. And so when they first built the first curriculum a couple of years back, they actually did a week-long workshop. In the days where you could do week-long workshops in person, they did a week-long workshop where they taught the computer science teachers across the state how to use the curriculum and how to implement it. One of the things that I know Tom was really blessed about was he had some students that were sharp enough to work through the curriculum as part of their capstone. And in the capstone, they got to try out the curriculum and offer suggestions, because it is new enough to where they want to be able to push it out. I'm going to show you a couple of these posters. This is something I got from NCWIT. I know you can't really see it all that well, but the cool thing about it is there's that one that is in English. And to make sure that you are definitely showing other students that they are also welcome, they have the same poster in Spanish. So NCWIT is very sensitive to, they don't just tell you we want you to recruit across the board, they also give you the materials to recruit across the board.
And to go back to your question about certifications, our school is big on it, Texas in general. That's part of your accountability rating is how many industry certifications your students get. And I have chosen curriculum that specifically is designed towards a certificate. I teach a computer maintenance class, a computer networking class, and those are directly correlated to the A+ certification and Network Plus certification. And then my cybersecurity course that I'm teaching next year, I've switched to a curriculum that will align with the Security Plus certification, industry certification. So that's where, as a teacher, you probably need to be deliberate. You need to figure out what certification will be helpful in whatever that looks like. In our case, that certification needs to both be useful in industry and acknowledged by the state as one of the things that meets their requirement. Once you've done that, then you need to make sure your curriculum aligns with it. In many cases, your curriculum already does align, but if there's anything missing, you want to fill those gaps. Yes, I know it sounds like another teaching to the test that we as teachers all hate, but to a certain extent, you still got to do that. So there's that. Next question.
That was all of our questions from the doc, actually. So thank you, everyone. That was our last question.
Okay. The question was asked about our email. So Haley or Evelyn, if you'd be sure and tack on our emails at the end, that would be just fine, because I know everyone will have the slide deck. And then that way you are certainly welcome to reach out to either one of us and ask your questions, or if there's a way we can help you grow your program. I also have a wonderful young man that is doing a capstone, one of our first capstones in computer science. And he is more than welcome and more than happy to get with anyone and help tell from the student perspective what was helpful for him in going through the process and building his capstone. So he will be one of our first capstone graduates. And then I have a young lady coming up to where she will be one of our first, not only capstone, but she'll actually get to go out and do a practicum.
Well, thank you so much. I'm actually going to switch over to an informational slide now on, if everybody can see just what's coming up next in the conference. Thank you also so much to Tom and Ruth for presenting and for adapting and preparing such a great session for us. So we will be sending out slides and a recording. We will go ahead and put the attendance link again for this session into the chat. Just a reminder to, if you haven't already, just click through this so you get entered into the end of conference raffles. And now we're going to take about a 15-minute break. But here is what is next in the conference. And if you're at any time unsure where you want to go, please refer to our landing page, codehs.com/CarolCon 2021, and you'll find join links for all of the sessions that are coming up. You can also email our team at hello@codehs.com during the conference, and you'll get a response from us. So thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and end now. And, once again, thank you so much to Tom and Ruth for presenting.